I'm going to go ahead and we're now being recorded. You're more than welcome to turn on your cameras if you'd like. It'd be nice to have everybody's at least smiley mug for a few seconds. So everybody is welcome to turn on their cameras unless you have something going on. But thanks so very much for joining with us this evening. Our goal, very good. I'm starting to see people. Thank you. And again, we'll keep the cameras on until bandwidth creates an issue for us, in which case, if you start to hear the sound going in and out, or things seem to stop, the best way to fix your webinar, fix your interface is to turn off your own camera and minimize your bandwidth going out so that you can suck in all those electrons coming in. So we haven't had a webinar in a couple of months, but we really do want to keep this going. And our goal is to really create an open forum on things that are happening, some best practices learned from other clubs. I'm Tim Miner. I'm the chair of the programs committee. Behind me is your national secretary, who can't wave because I've just blocked her. So I guess I have to take off my screen here, and so that way you'll be able to minimize. There we are. Now I'll turn over. There she is. That's your national secretary, my beloved, and so we have the opportunity to chat about a number of different things and learn from each other. Our goal this evening is to talk about, first of all, some special programs. Talk about start with the National Walking Week. If I might ask, there are several ways to communicate. You can unmute yourself and take off your microphone and just chat. We have, let's see, we have 18 folks. We had over 30 signed up. So a number of folks have been waylaid or otherwise distracted or forgot that this was happening. We are recording it. It will be out there on social media and everyone will be able to do that. But the idea is for us to just chat together about what things that are going on. Let's see, what do I have in store? Let's talk a little bit about the National Walking Week. Anybody like to share stories from their National Walking Week? I certainly have some things to tell about my club here in Virginia. You may have read some of those things in the American Wanderer recently, and so I don't really want to hog the bandwidth with something you could possibly read, but looking for best practices. What did you think of National Walking Week 2022? Anybody would like to comment one way or the other, things that their clubs did, things that they enjoyed? Silence is okay if we want to go that way, but all right. John McClellan, I see you on. I know your club did a couple of things for National Walking Week. What did you all do down in the sunny state of Florida?
Yeah, good evening. So we had two events, our regular Wednesday and our regular Sunday, basically. So we were not, unfortunately, able to get a proclamation from the county this year. I don't know what happened with them. Might have been COVID related, but yeah, we had two successful events, and we did our normal process. I don't really have anything outstanding this year. I mean, people coming off of the pandemic, it was difficult this year to get attention outside of the club, frankly.
No. Hey,
Yeah, so sorry for putting you on the spot there, John, but
It's fine,
Robert,
no problem.
and Tim,
sir.
this is Bob from Mid-America.
Yes, Bob
And-
from Mid-America.
We had a number of events in Indiana. We also had the proclamation from the governor, which helped the few events that we had within the state of Indiana. And outside of Indiana, there was one event in Illinois and one event in Ohio. And we also had 3 events down in Kentucky, which I would have to take the hit on because we ran into some problems getting the permits, and I was reluctant to advertise locally without the permits in hand. So one of the key things is for National Walking Week, we need to begin planning at least 3 months in advance so that we get the permits in time to have a very focused publicization, so we can get the events publicized locally. And so along with that, I think we need to set the firm dates of National Walking Week as being 1 through 7 April, since there was some interpretation of it as being from the first Wednesday for and the 6 subsequent days, which would have had National Walking Week starting on 6th of April.
Well, the answer to that question is that it was, and it always is, and always will be the first 7 days of April.
Okay.
And the reason is those first 7 days of April will always include the first Wednesday, which is what has historically been National Walking Day. And it was intended, it was designed this way to always capture the first Wednesday in the first 7 days. That means that there is one weekend associated with it. Now you can stretch it out if you want to locally with other events, but the first 7 days is always National Walking Week to capture that first Wednesday as part of this program. So please always plan for that going forward. And you can always have some warm-up days as the first of April is perhaps in the middle of the week. You can start the weekend prior locally with your advertising. You can do whatever it is you want to do. But the National Walking Week is always the 1st through the 7th of April. And again, that was to capture that National Walking Day, which in 2019 is no longer being used as a thing by the American Heart Association, but it still appears on a lot of calendars out there. So we wanted to grab a hold of that and add more to it, especially since Wednesday is not always the best walking day. Now, there are many opportunities to walk on a Wednesday. It was a Wednesday today and I walked with a great club event, not my own club, but a club north of us that does a regular Wednesday sort of thing. And that's okay. But the idea is most of our walking tends to take place on a weekend. So that's why it's a week. And we didn't just claim National Walking Day for ourselves. We wanted to always make sure we had at least a Saturday and a Sunday associated with the things that we did. So please always plan now for the first 7 days of April and then add your own buffer one way or the other, both sides to fill it out and make it a nice event. Does that answer your question, sir? Thoughts?
Yes, thank you, Tim.
Okay. Very good. Anybody here from Nebraska? Did we get somebody to finally come from Nebraska? I made multiple requests for somebody from perhaps Nevada, Las Vegas. Didn't see Carl Cordes. I don't see Carl Cordes online. All of those folks were invited, and the idea is that like us in Northern Virginia, our club did 7 straight days, 7 straight events in a row. Now, I'm not sure we're going to be doing that again. We used a traveling guided walk stamp. Anybody know what a traveling guided walk stamp is? One fee. I get to use that stamp for as many times as I want during the calendar year. Saves a lot, allows for some small walks to keep adding up to eventually pay for the stamp. Allows a lot less scheduling hassle with, I don't need 90 days to schedule something. I can do it even within 2 weeks. So it's a really great opportunity. We had one traditional event and 6 traveling guided walk stamps events. That was an awful lot. And quite honestly, I'm not sure we're going to do that. I'd like to call out Nebraska, who did maybe half a dozen, 4 or 5 walks, but interspersed it with social activities or shorter non-traditional events or non-5K, 10K sorts of events. They met for a 5K and then did dinner on one of their 2 or 3 times. They did 5K and went for a drink at the local Irish pub or something like that. So the idea is that they really emphasize the social aspect as opposed to the walking aspect. And, you know, and thinking about it for my club, I think I'm going to capture that as a lesson to learn from this, is that the social aspect of what we do is just as important as the actual number of steps we happen to take. Thoughts on that? Anybody want to share one way or the other what they think about this? That we're celebrating ourselves. We're celebrating ourselves as walkers, and the things that we bring to our communities, and the social aspect is just as important as the number of stamps in a book. Thoughts?
Tim, our club goes out after we walk in the mornings. When we do our Sunday walks, we go out as a group. On Wednesday nights, we go out as a group after we finish walking. We like to say we're an eating club with a walking compassion.
That's a great way to frame it, and I really appreciate this. I can hear the enthusiasm for the social aspect of what it is we're doing. You know, perhaps we have spent too many years emphasizing the feet on the ground, covering distance, getting a stamp in a book, and we haven't spent as much time on our relationships. And maybe that's something we can take as a lesson learned from National Walking Week and what some of the clubs are doing. Sounds like you have a great social aspect to what it is you're doing.
Well, it stopped during COVID, of course, but we've picked it back up. So
Great, thank you. John, your club does an awful lot of socialization as part of your event. What strengths can you tell us, and how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, you just heard about it. Leslie's a happy wanderer.
Very good.
It's a drinking club with a walking problem.
Excellent. So how do, if I might ask, now how do you make that happen in the context of our AVA programs and all the different kinds of programs that we have out there? So many of us are only know about traditional events. What kind of, let's just say, how do you organize your events, and how are they represented on our myava.org pages?
So if this is a lead in to talk about ACE, I can do that. I mean, the walks we do we do traditional walks sometimes on weekends, but we usually do a group walk of one of our year-round events on Sundays. So they're listed as year-round events, and that, you know, we run it with a group leader typically. But the Wednesday nights that Leslie mentioned, that is something called an ACE-WG construct. So a few years ago, the AVA was interested in how could we structure our events to reach out to communities. And the programs committee at the time took that up and created a series of events under the acronym ACE, AVA Community Events, with different purposes, but all have some common elements. One of the things about ACE events is they are not under the purview of the IVV. There's no IVV logos used, and there's no IVV flag displayed. They're strictly AVA events. As a result, ACE events there's no walking for credit. There are no stamps at ACE events. So those are things that you give up. What you get for that is you're not constrained by IVV rules on the distance, the sanctioning distance, for example. If you want to do an event with a community partner like the Chamber of Commerce or the Girl Scouts or a school group, you can run a 1 mile walk. You can hold a shorter distance event. For ACE events, there's no requirement to sanction 10 kilometers and then figure out a 5K if you want. The distance is entirely up to the community partner you're working with. We tend to find that a lot of community partners, you say, well, we're going to hold a 6 mile walk. They'd be like, oh my God, that sounds like a long way. So ACE events are not tied to those constraints. The specific brand that we use in the Happy Wanderers on Wednesday nights is called an ACE WG, a weekday guided event. These were specifically set up for the purposes of recruiting and publicity. And for us, they replaced what we just used to call a fun walk, which wasn't even sanctioned at all. The club would get together and we would have to self-insure, essentially. An ACE WG allows you to have a walk of any distance or duration for a flat fee of $3. There's no participant fee because it's a weekday. And that basically pays for the AVA insurance policy to wrap around your event. And so you have the option with an ACE WG of either charging participant fees or not. So we don't charge the participants when we run an ACE WG, but we do pay that $3 flat fee per event so that the AVA can cover the cost of the insurance policy. And we use that in lieu of free walkers on other kinds of events. And we use it in connection with our meetup.com platform. And this is our main conduit to getting new walkers into the club. Our Wednesday nights, where we walk for about 45 minutes to an hour, a lot of times on the beach or typically in some local park, or at least it starts and finishes in the park. And then after the walk, we take everybody out for dinner. Everybody being whoever wants to come. And we go to a nearby restaurant that is conducive to a large group. And so we combine the community walk spirit with the social side. And I'll pause there for a minute.
So how do you handle the waiver fee or the signing a waiver or anything like that? Is that a part of that?
So for ACE events across the board, you still have to sign a waiver. Everybody signs in. We have a clipboard with a roster with the waiver printed on the top of it, similar to the standard sheets that are used for a year-round event in a logbook. And yeah, everyone signs in because the events are insured and they are now sanctioned. It's just not a complete sanction. You have to, for an ACE WG, you have to apply for permission to run those on an annual basis with your RD. And it's on the system. It's really just to check a box. You request to be able to run those events. You don't have to sanction every single one with WG ACE events. You do have to go back after the event and log on and put in the numbers of participation. So you go back and you tell the AVA how many people attended. You have to certify that you had a group leader. The name of the group leader is put on there as the point of contact. And you have to certify that you have a map of the route. And that's for the insurance company. You don't have to distribute maps because it's a group walk, but you have to have the location of the walk. And that's in case there was an incident that you're able to provide that if requested.
Great, thank you. Karen, you have a question, ma'am?
Not a question. I just wanted to support John's what he's saying, because we just finished our Couch to 5K last night, which is an 8-week program that uses this format. And we have everybody sign. It's a community activity. We encourage our club members to come, but we ought to also reach out to the community. We had probably 12 people over the 8 weeks that joined us. We had at least 2 that were there for the whole 8 weeks, but people who came in and out. We're hoping that we also have our traditional event this Saturday. So we're hoping and have invited those folks to come out and see us. Fortunate for us, Dover Air Force Base is having their Thunder over Dover. So we're encouraging people that if you come out for the walk, please go by the Air Force Base and check out that for the weekend. That is Saturday and Sunday. So yes, John, we do the exact same thing. We've been doing that for 6 years. It's been great. We've gotten actually, that's how the club got me, was through the Couch to 5K. I had started my business about around the same time they were doing their thing. And so I met up first couple times, and then the next year they ran it again, and I completed the whole thing. And I thought, gosh, you can't beat, well, back then it was $5 to join the club. I said, you can't beat that. Plus they went out to eat, which I thought was perfect. Yeah. So I think it's a wonderful program. And I think, like Leslie said, it's that food, commiserating community thing, getting together. And then, oh, by the way, we're walking while we do it, I think is a good way to grab people. I think what we're going to try to work on more, though, is we like to, working through our chamber, to try to involve more families, to get children and parents out. One of the ideas was, I guess, Dover a couple years ago through the library did a story time thing. And I thought I heard somebody somewhere in AVA had done something similar. You walk along and there's a story at each little area that you stop at. And you by the time you get done the whole walk, you have done a whole story. So we're going to look into doing that with the community possibly next year. So I just kind of wanted to say that just support what John was saying, that I feel it really does work, and sometimes little by little you get people hooked. If you're out there, you're making a presence, especially when things are free. And then usually our last 4 walks, we actually do a brown bag picnic at one of the 2 of the locations, and then we go out to dinner at 2 other locations. So I think this is a great program, and sometimes I think that's what you have to do to get more people involved. Because a lot of people walk, it's all the other things that they can do together. And that's what a lot of the couples were saying that showed up for our walks, was that they were looking for something like this, not just walking, but something to get involved with some other people in the community. So I think this is an excellent program, and we'll continue to use it. Thank you.
Thank you. And when does your Couch to 5K program start every year?
It starts just before walk week. So it kind of worked out for us this year. We were actually already into it on March 29th. We had already spoke to the Dover mayor, and he came out. We did our traditional on the 2nd at the Y, which is where we host our start box. And the mayor came out and gave us a proclamation, and then we went ahead and did our walk. And then we had our second walk the Tuesday, what was that, the 4th. We had another walk. So I think that was in Dover too. So you gave me some ideas, Tim, because I've been thinking too that I'd like to do something for 7 days, but when you only have so many hands, it's hard to run the programs. But we only have 3 counties here in Delaware, so we could probably at least do a year round in each county and encourage people to get out and do it at different times and different days to get people out. So you already got me thinking, and I think next year we're going to get the governor involved because this is a small state and everybody pretty much knows everybody. So we'll see about whether we can get him involved. So
That's great. Thanks so much for sharing, Karen.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Leslie, you have your hand up, ma'am?
Yes, I put my hand up because, and please understand, none of these are my ideas. This is how the club did it when I moved here. During the summer, we change our format a bit. We make it an hour later on Wednesday nights because of the heat. And we have what we call ice cream walks. And we'll stop at an ice cream store at the end of our walk, usually, sometimes in the middle of our walk, and enjoy ice cream in the summer. So not just food, ice cream. We don't actually do dinner during the summer when we do the ice cream walks.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. Some great ideas here. And I think that in Virginia, we were very fortunate. This is the third year we've gotten our governor involved in it. And the first 2 years was from one party, and now we have the other party participating. So we have basically the idea of actually both political parties. So that's great. And that's walking is something everybody can agree with. We've gotten mayors, we've gotten county boards to actually do this. And it's been a lot of fun to be associated with them in our area. John, you have a question, sir?
No, I thought though I would quickly talk about the other style of ACE events since we brought it up. And I will say the Couch to 5K, that's a perfect example of how to use this category of events, because it's folks start at 1K or 2Ks, and that wouldn't have been possible under IVV rules. So that was the kind of thing that Deb Croyp had in mind when she was chairing this and when these were created. But there are 3 other ways to use ACE events. There is the ACE T, which the T is for traditional, and this simply is an event that looks very much like a traditional event, but again, without the IVV distance requirements. But it's essentially set up and run the same way as you would run a traditional event. And then there are 2 others, ACE Y and ACE P. ACE Y is for youth, and ACE P is for any other private group. And the distinguishing thing about these 2 options are they are for community partners who want to hold essentially a private event, either a youth-oriented event where it's not in the interest of the youth group to have the general public be invited, or a private event that might be for, say, an organization or a company, say the employees of the city, or even a private company, where again the audience is limited to a defined group. So ACE P and ACE Y are set up when they're put on ESR so that they are not publicized to anybody outside of the essentially the people that are setting it up, to sort of protect those groups. And that's really the only distinguishing thing. And but again, all of them are meant to engage a certain segment of the community that you might want to partner with, and specifically with youth groups or with private groups, the idea being that our clubs have expertise on how to set up and run an athletic event. And so we could make ourselves attractive by them seeking us out and saying, well, we'd like to run a 1-mile walk for our employees, or we'd like to do a wellness fair. Could you run a walk in conjunction for that? But we only need a 1-hour walk, or whatever that form it would take. It allows you to meet, what Henry says, what our CEO says is you have to meet people where they are. And so IVV rules sometimes made that difficult. So these structures are meant to meet these community groups where they are and offer them our services. And we get out of it, first of all, we fulfill our 501c mission of educating the public on the health value of walking and other non-competitive sports. but we also get a little revenue out of it. The ACE T and Y and P, there's the traditional $1.25 participation fee. So I mean, and the other aspects. So you know, it can become a true partnership.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. That's really great ideas about how to take 7 days worth of National Walking Week and expand it beyond what it is we traditionally call Volks marching and Volks sporting, and actually go out there and actually do something good for your community and give back. And I think that that's all very important. One of the things we did in Virginia on our traditional event, which was to partner with the idea of creating a something pretty special, a border to border across our county, across one of the National Park Service's trails, national trails, and those national trails are not run by park rangers so much as they're run by community partners. And we would be great community partners for national trails like the Potomac Heritage National Scenic Trail, or in our case, it was the Washington Rochambeau National Historic Trail. Again, these national park system trails are there for either scenery, for history. We turn them into usable recreation, and we make them even more valuable as something that allows us to recreate. And in our county, we were able to report back specific intersections where it was difficult to walk, to cross, as we looked at this national trail system through our county. Where is it difficult to actually walk because it really wasn't planned as a long-term walking thing, and yet that's something that we're doing. So we're giving back to our community by being walking monitors, or we are doing walking audits, which I believe is a term that has been done. So yes, America Walks, as I'm hearing, it uses that term. The idea of doing a walk audit in your community, where are the good places to walk, and then turning around and reporting back and making the community a better place, because we are the boots on the ground, the toes on the trail, the whatever. I can go into an awful lot of things like that. But anyway, so we're giving back in that way as well. There's another idea for you as you look at next year's National Walking Week. And now's the time to actually start planning for it. We'll have more and more guidance on how to perhaps work with your local government about declaring a local walking week, a county walking week, a statewide walking week associated with our National Walking Week to bring about that publicity. So there are some great things. Really appreciate the folks in Florida coming and joining us and sharing their experiences, and especially these different ways of doing and these different products that most of us don't really use and or know about. So anyway, I'm seeing some great comments, and you might want to watch the chat room as well about comments about what it is we're doing and what we're talking about. So thank you, John, for your comments on these as well. So looking to the policy manual, looking to guidance on doing walk auditing. All of this is very, very possible. Any other thoughts on National Walking Week before we flip the switch for a different topic? And we're welcome to do that. I would like to then move on towards maybe some hints about some special programs for next year. Karen, up in Delaware, I know that you're on. Any intel you can give us about what you'd like to talk about? Thoughts on where you'd like to go? Are you still considering it?
Yes, I haven't had a chance to talk to the club yet. We'll have a meeting next week, so I'm going to discuss it with them. I'm just hoping they're not a little shell shocked, since we're going to do the Atlantic Region Conference in 2 years. So I'm hoping they're not going to go, what? What are you talking about? So yeah, I'm going to talk to them. And I had a meeting with Betty Green, because she and I had talked a couple years ago about another program that she was interested in, that I think the LBW will do, the Liberty Bell Wanderers. And I think she said she talked to you a little bit at the conference. And I'm just going to help her, because I actually am a Liberty Bell Wanderer as well. So I told her I was going to help her write that as well. So, but I saw that you hadn't mentioned it when we met with the board. So I didn't know whether to bring it up now or not. So, but yeah, I'm still interested, because I think the PAR, as you're calling it, I think if we get playgrounds involved in there, as well as some of the adult stuff that people like to do, that I think that might bring more people in, as far as community. So it's just a matter of thinking it out and figuring out how to do it. But I also need to be able to sell it to the club. So as soon as I have a conversation with them, I'll get back to you. And that should be, it's the first Thursday of the month that we have that meeting. So it'll be till then before I can get back to you.
All right, well, that's good. Everybody's out there wondering what it is. We're trying to talk around, and the idea is par for the course. The idea of how many of you walk along someplace where you suddenly see that there are these stations for, all right, stretch here, do so many pull-ups here, do this, do that. You do different stations in certain locations. That's called a par course. Par courses, playgrounds, and golf courses as a way of adding walking to fitness. And there's actually a couple of national fitness organizations that I'm hoping will join us in that, if that is where we want to go forward. Another idea for a special program is the Baltimore Club wants to bring back for another 3 years a new version of lighthouses. This time co-sponsored with the National Lighthouse Society, which, by the way, has its own stamp program for lighthouses. And that's not just on the coasts, but also on lakes, on rivers. We have lighthouses and things like that. And there are many, many lighthouses all across the continental United States and Alaska and Hawaii. So those are some of the ideas for you to start thinking about. If you have an idea for a special program, we have 3 of them that are basically going to be ending this next year and looking for some replacements. Another thing I really want to bring up is in 2026, if you subtract 250 from that, the answer is 1776. And our country is going to celebrate the 250th birthday of our country. And so we're already in discussions with the National Park Service and other entities about how we can create a national program that latches a hold of this 1770s 250th birthday of our country and share some of our national historic sites associated with that. And it probably, now, while the National Park Service is going to be 1 year and done, 2026, and that's it. I can anticipate that our program will go on for 5 years, because it wasn't until 1781, 5 years later, that we finally won our freedom in the United States with the Battle of Yorktown. And so one of the things that will happen here in our Atlantic region is we're going to latch a hold of that history, and our 2025 regional conference will be associated with, it will be in Williamsburg, associated with the beginning to celebrate the 250th birthday of our country. So we have some great ideas and some great programs that we hope will get us publicity and allow us to see some great history while we're walking and make our walking pretty special. These are some ideas. Stay tuned. They're not official yet, but you'll know very soon what will be official by this summer moving in towards the end of the summer so that you can begin to plan what special programs will be turned on next year, and you can adjust your walks accordingly to participate in those programs. I do want to bring up IVV programs. John, you're part of the National Olympiad Committee, and I'm not sure who else is on that can speak well, but you're certainly a good spokesperson. What can you tell us about February of next year that you're willing to share with us?
Yeah, I saw Susan Fine was on for a while. She may have dropped off, or she's also on the committee. She represents the AVA Publicity Committee. The co-chairs are our CEO Henry Rosales, Holly Pelking, who is a former AVA vice president, and Susan Medlin, who is the current AVA vice president. We met today. We've been meeting for a year. It's starting to get busy now because online registration has opened for the Olympiad. And for the folks who are not familiar with this, the IVV holds an Olympiad every 2 years. The last one was canceled, supposed to be in Seoul, South Korea. Was postponed and then finally canceled. So there has not been an IVV Olympiad since 2019. Before the pandemic, that was in Provence in France. My wife and I, Sheila and I, went to that Olympiad. We went to the last two, actually. The 2017 was in Koblenz in Germany. But it's a large international walking festival. Countries have to bid to hold it. We bid against South Korea back 4 years ago, and then we bid a second time and were awarded it for 2023. It's the first time in the history of the IVV, dating back 50 years, that the Olympiad will be held in North America at all, and in the United States of America specifically. So it's been planned and organized in February in San Antonio for a couple of specific reasons. One is we have an existing IML weekend in San Antonio, the Texas Trail Roundup. So this allows us to foster cooperation between these two international bodies, IVV and IML, and hold their events back to back in the same city for essentially a complete week, stringing those two festivals together. This doesn't happen very often. More often than not, the IML calendar and the IVV calendar conflict. I literally was at an Olympiad where people were having to rush to leave the last day because they wanted to get to Belgium for the IML event because they overlapped by 36 hours or some such. We're precluding all that by essentially running both of them and putting them back to back. The other reason for February is, well, that's when the IML is already, but that's when the rodeo is in town in San Antonio, which is for the whole month of February. And if you want to show the whole world the United States and what we're about culturally, I mean, there's a lot of ways you could choose to do that. But the American rodeo is kind of a quintessential American happening. It's not the only one, but it happened to line up with these other factors. The other thing that's going on, because we're having an Olympiad in 2023, we are not having an AVA biennial convention in 2023. The board felt that we would have a difficulty attracting the domestic audience to two large week-long festivals like that. But again, because this is a week-long, you've got 7 or 8 days of walking, just like you have at an AVA convention. There will be a business meeting on one day for the club delegates for the necessary business, because that's required by the bylaws, but there will not be all the other training programs and other general sessions that you normally see at a convention. There will be the one business meeting. The other functions will be handled through online meetings such as this one over a period of time and on a schedule to be published separately. The Olympiad is the first 4 days. The opening is on February 19th, and then the Olympiad is from the 20th to the 23rd. followed by the IML we'll close the Olympiad, open the IML, and it will go the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 24, 25, 26. So February 19th to the 26th are the inclusive dates. Right now, online registration is open for full passes. You can buy a combo pass for the whole week, or you can buy a pass just for the IVV portion or just for the IML portion. Those are the options available right now during early registration up to September 30th. Down the road, when we get past the initial phase here, there'll be a follow-on price schedule published for things like day passes or single event passes.
We have Wednesday night. Well, no, you know, we went.
The IVV Olympiad is not like anything you've ever seen if you haven't been to one. We're talking about 2,000 to 3,000 people if we do it right. Now, we've just come through a pandemic. We still have travel restrictions. Our planning number is 1,500 to 2,500. But if you have not been to a walking event like that, unless you've been to Crazy Horse in the United States, you've probably not been to a walking event on that scale. There will be an Olympic Village, which is planned to be in La Valita. La Valita is a shopping and restaurant hub in the very downtown of San Antonio, right on the Riverwalk. We will have pieces of that contracted out. There will be after walk activities and live entertainment every afternoon or evening during these festivals at La Valita. The Olympiad opens with a parade of flags of all the participating nations, which can be up to 41 countries. There'll be a short route to a ceremony where the, official, games will open, not unlike the torch ceremony at the Olympics, except without the flames probably. But the IVV flag will be brought in. There'll be a couple of short speeches, so forth and so on, a cultural display by the host country, which is in the planning right now. And then we will open the walks for the next 4 days and then the 3 days of the IML. So I think that's a reasonably short summary. Appreciate it, Tim.
Thank you very much. And just a reminder that the IML walks are also IVV sanctioned. So it's a twofer.
Yes, I'm sorry. And thank you for mentioning that. So you will get, if you are a person who does IML events, you'll actually get credit for 2 festivals. And because they're back to back, it'll be a cooperative, which means you can get credit in the Olympiad booklets if you keep those for 2 festivals. So yeah, you get a twofer on everything. And there's a couple of other programs that you'll get credit for too, the Pan Pacific program or the IVV Americas Cup. And by the way, the AVA just voted to join IVV Americas. So we're talking to Canada, we're talking to Australia, we're talking to New Zealand, to get them on board.
Very, very good. Thank you so much. And I think that does lead into a next thing. One last question. How about volunteer opportunities? Are you looking for volunteers?
Yeah, we are, and we need probably several hundred. Sue Panicki out of the North Central, out of the Des Moines, Iowa club, who you may remember dressed as a cow for a few years and very, very successfully ran an AVA biennial in 2009, I think I want to say it was. She is our volunteer coordinator. On the registration page or on the Olympiad website, there are a number of registration buttons. One is to register for the festivals. There is another button that allows you to register to volunteer. The first week or two, we were having some problems with the volunteer registration. We got some reports that people filled it out, but it didn't seem to submit. We believe we have that solved now, but you can go on there and you can say, hey, I'm available on these times or these days, or I'm interested in these kinds of tasks, and Susan will get you slotted into all the things that we have to do. And also on the registration on the website is a button you can click to make hotel accommodations. Now that takes you to one of several hotels. You're not doing that strictly with the AVA, but there's a series of links The host hotel is the La Quinta on the Riverwalk downtown, the La Quinta by Wyndham downtown Riverwalk. I think about 400 accommodations just in that hotel alone. But then there's about a dozen more hotels where you're provided with the links to their registration sites, all within a mile of that same, hub or so. I think all of them are, some of them are closer, but all of them are within no more than a mile. And a various price range are available also. One other thing on volunteering, we are looking for clubs or state associations or whole regions to volunteer to take a checkpoint for a day or a series of days on one or more of these walks. The Olympiad and the IMLs are, each day there will be a 5, a 10, and a 20. 2 days out of the 7, there will be a marathon length Volksmarch, 42 kilometers. There will be 2 days of biking and 2 days of swimming during the IVV. So there's a lot of events to staff. And, I've put together the checkpoints for a marathon before in Germany. That's like 7 checkpoints to run a marathon, 6 or 7. So the total number of checkpoints for the whole week is something like 30 to 35 checkpoints. This is a very big operation. So there are plenty of opportunities for, clubs or states that would like to say, hey, I'll take checkpoint number 2 on Tuesday, and you'd own it. And you could run it and talk about your club and have your club banner there, or likewise your state, or likewise a region. So you can volunteer as an individual, or a group or a club can volunteer, and take on a role like that.
Thanks so much for sharing all of that, John. Really appreciate it. I think it's very important that everyone understand that we as I know he talks about North America, but this is the first IVV Olympiad in the entire Western Hemisphere. How about that? Ever. So it's a pretty significant thing, and you have the opportunity to do that. How about pre-walks? Any opportunity for those who want to volunteer to get their feet on the ground early and take care of this?
So we did some this year in February during the Texas Trail Roundup. I think you guys were there for that. Right now, the trail master in San Antonio, who's working for Susan, is working on the feedback we got from those walkers. There may be a fall or early winter opportunity to do that. It hasn't been set up yet, but that's a good point. Or it may be, if you're talking specifically for volunteers, that we'll set something up like in the week preceding the 2 festivals, perhaps specifically for volunteers to walk in advance and get credit. Now, you can always get event credit for volunteering at AVA events. But if you want to get event and distance and other kinds of credits, or you want to get the credits that allow you to get, say, the Olympiad or IML level stuff, then yeah, you'd probably have to string together enough to meet those various criteria. So I'll take that to the committee. That's a good takeaway for me tonight, Tim, about it's a little bit down the road from where we are right now, but it's important.
Well, again, for airline reservations, for those who are going to fly down to get that, to do those pre-walks, we need many, many days in advance in order to get.
Yeah, no, I'll get that on the agenda for the committee in the near future, and we'll see if we can, I mean, I would probably recommend we do it in the week preceding, so that you can do just that. So you can come in for a week or 10 days, or 10 days or 2 weeks, rather than, you know what I mean?
I understand.
But make it consecutive right before. So those are not pre-walks to tweak the walks. Now we're talking about just volunteers getting their credit out of the way. Yeah. No, good idea.
Very good. Thank you. And again, what a great chance to serve AVA and to serve the IVV community all over the world in a very unique thing in our own home territory.
Yeah, and if you have never had the opportunity to travel overseas for whatever reason and see one of these large festivals, and get the chance to practice the sport that we love with people from all over the world who feel the same, this is your opportunity to do that without leaving the United States. I mean, you got to go to Texas, but it's kind of like going to another country, but you don't have to leave the United States because they're going to come to us.
Very good. And for those who have not done the IML International Marching League program, the way that program works is international festivals. There are at least 1 to 2 per country, 27 total of these world-class events. And they come in series, you can only get credit in series of 3. You do, yes, you get IVV credit for all the many different walks that make it up, but IML requires a minimum of 2 days at minimum, and you have to do at least 20 kilometers per day. Now, if you really want to challenge yourself and actually get your very first series, which requires 3 separate events, 2023, or if you look at October of this year, there is one opportunity within 12 months, or 2 opportunities, I guess, within 12 months to actually get all 3, your first series here in the Western Hemisphere, here in the United States. And that is October, either this year or October of 2023, come to the US Freedom Walk Festival in the Washington, DC, Arlington, Virginia. That is the second IML event, and it is now in its 21st year. Couple that with an IVV Olympiad, 4 days of 20 kilometers. Couple that with the 2 days of the Texas Trail Roundup in February of 23. You now have your very first 3 series. Yes. So that's kind of a unique challenge that you're welcome to do. John mentioned the idea of a North American Cup, and that's being discussed right now between the Canadian Volk Sports Association and the AVA. And the idea is to promote travel between our here in North America, creating a unique challenge series that promotes traveling with a couple of this IVV walking club. I'm going to go up to Penticton to their national convention in a week and a half. I'll be picking up 200 IVV America's Walking Program books, and we'll be selling it through the program committee. $10 or $12 US or Canadian, and I doubt that anybody here has Canadian money other than perhaps my wife and I, who has hoarded it like for 20 years since our last visit. But the idea is that you for 20 IVV walks anywhere in the North America or in the Americas or Oceania. That is Australia and the South Pacific. And they're looking at, with us just joining in the AVA, looking at bringing New Zealand on. That will be a unique geographical region. You only need 20 IVV walks in that region. That means you can do your hometown year-round event 20 times, and it counts. There's no traveling requirement. You can repeat stamps. It doesn't matter. It is a singularly unique program to give you credit for walking the IVV Americas, and it's easily done. And you'll find out more details as once I get my hands on these books, and we'll be able to mail them to you without having to buy postage for Canada or anything like that. So I'll be bringing them back, as I said, within 10 days, and they'll be available to you. So you can already start collecting your walks on your insert cards because they count. And so now that, and as far as I'm concerned, as soon as the AVA chose to join, all those stamps counted. So you're welcome to start collecting now or work for them going forward once you have your book. Insert cards count. So the idea of an IVV Americas, of a North American challenge is specifically to US, Canada, and our surrounding 23 countries of North America. But really it's just Canada and the United States are the most important aspect there. The idea is to promote travel. It does require a minimum of 2 countries. And there are some special ideas. You do have to attend things like a national conference in both countries, or attend 2 international walking festivals, and there are only 2, the IML events right now. Although whisper, whisper, there is the idea of creating a third one, or creating one in Ottawa. And that's potentially on the table in the immediate future. This would be an indefinite program. Another thing would be another one of those. So either do that, do the IVV Olympiad, that would count as your special credit. And then you just have just walks in the United States and in Canada, any IVV walks in there. So you could either do 2 conferences, you could do the IVV Olympiad, you could do 2 IMLs, you could walk both capital cities, Ottawa and Washington, DC. So there are certain criteria that will keep this program going. And the way it's being envisioned is there will be, the first time you do it will be bronze, the second time you do it will be silver, and the third time you do it will be gold level. And so those are some of the ideas that are being bandied around right now to promote travel between our respective countries and to really get enthusiasm for the Olympiad and the IVV or IML event coming up. Well, that brings us to the top of the hour. Any quick questions for anybody here that anything else that you wanted to bring up? Otherwise, this is going to be recorded. It'll be on social media. It'll be on the YouTube channel, and we'll be sharing this link. Please share it with those who you know who haven't been here. We'll be back next month with more, I think, as we get closer to the, with really special events like the IVV Olympiad coming. We really do need to have this every month going forward. And so you can expect more and more detail. Please share this with your club members. Please share this with others in your community, in your walking community. Otherwise, if there's no questions, thanks so very much for walking with us in the AVA, and thanks so very much for what you do in your clubs and your participation. Hearts to everybody and all that sort of stuff. And thank you again for the chance to be with you, and look forward to being with you on the trail. If not now, then I'll see you on the trail definitely in February, when we're all going to come together to Texas to be part of the IVV Olympiad. So you're wanted either at a checkpoint or on the trail, one way or the other. We need you. We need each and every one of you. So thanks so much. We'll be stopping the recording now.